You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Thanks for joining us this Thursday. I'm Ann Makovic. Here is a look at some of our news headlines this morning. The ripple effects from that United Airlines ground stop still impacting some passengers today. This is a look at SFO this morning, where some flights are canceled or behind schedule. Last night's ground stop lasted for hours at airports across the country. The airline blames a technology glitch. Company says it is covering meals and hotels for travelers affected by this. President Trump's tariffs now in effect in dozens of America's trading partners. They went into effect at midnight. Before today, almost every country's goods were subject to a minimum 10% tariff. Right now, rates vary substantially depending on the country. For example, tariffs on goods from Brazil are 50%, India 25%. President Trump touted on social media that billions of dollars are flowing into the U.S., but economists say this means prices will go up for Americans. In the North Bay, today is day 3 of the city workers' strike in Nevada. Building inspectors, street maintenance workers, and parks and rec staff all hit the picket lines on Monday. They are demanding more money and help with staffing shortages. The city says their labor negotiation team has offered raises. They say the union decided to strike instead of continuing negotiations. The massive wildfire on the Central Coast has now torched through more than 150 square miles. That is about twice the size of the city of Oakland. The Gifford fire broke out Friday in the Los Padres National Forest in Santa Barbara County. Things are going to be even tougher for firefighters as they brace now for a heat wave. So let's get a check on our first alert weather forecast here in the Bay Area. Have a bit of a warm up. Meteorologist Jessica Birch has our forecast.
Well, we're still dealing with warm weather this afternoon in our inland areas. More 90s in places like Antioch, 80s into Concord. We have low 80s in the Santa Clara Valley with 80s all the way up into Santa Rosa. So all of our inland areas are kind of around the same spot when it comes to our daytime highs and relative humidity too. It's still pretty low into the afternoon hours. Now we're back into the upper 60s in San Francisco today. Yesterday we topped off in the 70s, which was warm, but not that average actually around this time of year. Now as we take a look at the next couple of days, we're continuing to warm up a little bit more into this weekend. Once this area of low pressure moves away, that actually allows for high pressure to build in, diving into our Friday, Saturday, and Sunday forecast. And that's going to give our temperatures a little bit above average conditions into early next week too. Now, this morning we kicked off with some misty conditions along the coast. We can still see that drizzle linger into the noon hour just along our shoreline, but for the rest of us, it's dry and sunny in our inland spots, cloudy and cool along the peninsula today. And here's what we're gearing up for when it comes to the winds into this afternoon. Starting off nice and light throughout most of the Bay Area, but it does start to kick up, especially in places like San Francisco, all the way up into Fairfield, up to around 20 to 25 mile per hour winds expected into the evening hours tonight. Now, above normal temperatures are expected throughout the next 6 to 10 days. What does that mean for us here locally? Well, we're still going to be dealing with warm weather here in the Bay, but we are going to experience a bit of a cool down into next week. Here's what we're gearing up for. Mid-90s diving into this weekend, at least for Friday and Saturday. It starts to taper off back into the 80s as we head into next week from Monday and Tuesday. It's back to school next week for all those kiddos, and as that's happening, we're going to get a little bit of a midweek cool down. Still sunny skies and low relative humidity mixed with some strong winds at times, so fire weather conditions are possible, and we want to be mindful of that. 70s for our friends along the Bay. We'll keep you updated on that forecast here in the Weather Center.
Well, it is the first day of class for students in the San Jose Unified School District. School officials tell us that immigration fears have already kept some kids off campus. The district rolled out the red carpet for students at Hoover Middle School this morning. The school has almost 1,000 students, and according to the California Department of Education, 77% of them are Hispanic or Latino. The principal says the district has put policies in place to make sure immigrant families feel safe coming to class.
Over the summer, rolling that out and making sure we know everything that's going to be happening, the processes that go with it, and making sure that any agency we always keep, that come to campus, we always keep our students safe and protected, and very confidential. So I really want to give them a shout out to making sure me as a principal that I know exactly what I would be doing in those situations to keep everyone safe.
Leaders across the school district are watching the ongoing immigration enforcement actions playing out across the country. ICE taking people into custody at home, at work, even at immigration court. It's leaving families to wonder if schools could be added to that list. Len Ramirez is in San Jose, where the fear has already had a significant impact in the classroom.
Well, the start of a new school year is always an exciting time for the students and the faculty, and it's no different here at Overfelt High School in San Jose. But this year, because of where this community lies, there are some added concerns around the issue of immigration. At Overfelt High School, student athletes are some of the first to return to campus, even though classes haven't started yet. Lanaya Jones is excited to return to flag football in this, her senior year.
I'm very excited. I think senior year is going to be exciting. It's going to go by really fast, I hope.
But even as excitement fills the air, she's also picking up feelings of anxiety among some of her friends. Recent immigration enforcement activity in this part of San Jose has put neighborhood families on edge.
All the immigration stuff is pretty scary because a lot of students don't know what's going to happen to their families during school, and they get worried.
Overfelt High serves a large immigrant population, and teachers here are doing what they can to support the students.
And they're scared that they might come to our school, even though our school is protecting us and they're telling us that they have our backs and stuff.
Immigration enforcement has been a reality in this neighborhood for as long as I've been here.
And even though there are legal limits to what the school can do, Principal Vito Chiala says school is the best place for students to be.
At this point, our protocol is follow the rules of the law. If an agent has a warrant, we're going to have that process through our district administration, make sure it's a legitimate warrant, and we're going to follow the law. That's what we're going to do. And at the same time, we're going to do everything we can to keep all of our students and all of our families safe.
To strengthen that sense of safety, the Santa Clara County Office of Education began pushing for statewide protections after a dramatic drop-off in student attendance this year.
When the administration first took office, we noticed that there was an immediate 5,000 student decline in our average daily attendance. By February of 2025, that decline doubled to 10,000 students. And we know that that has a direct impact in terms of long-term outcomes for students.
AB 49, co-authored by the office, would require strict conditions before ICE can enter any school property and would prevent access to areas where students are present.
Being able to ensure that immigration enforcement agents aren't allowed in spaces where students are present ensures that students are not able to be directly intimidated or even questioned.
Despite the challenges, Overfelt is forging ahead. Chiala says summer school attendance was strong this year, and he's optimistic that students will show up ready to learn, despite the challenges some families are facing. Lanaya has an eye on reaching her own goals, making plays as a receiver in flag football, getting good grades, and planning to further her education.
I want to go to San Jose Community College and then either go to San Jose State or out-of-state college, just somewhere new.
And that's the message Overfelt hopes to send, that students here can thrive even in uncertain times.
And that law that Len mentioned, AB 49, still moving through the state legislature right now, with advocates hoping that it will become law by the end of the year. Still ahead here on CBS News Bay Area, the effort to address the homelessness crisis appears to be pushing the problem around. So where are homeless people ending up now?
We're constantly having to report and having to clean up. I personally clean the streets.
Plus, injured children from Gaza have arrived here in the Bay Area. We're going to meet the local volunteers and doctors, making sure they get the care they need.
We've been working on their cases for over a year now to try to get them definitive care here in the U.S.
And the 49ers kicking off their preseason this Saturday against the Denver Broncos. You can watch live on KPIX and streaming on Paramount Plus. Kickoff 5:30, and our pregame coverage begins at 5.
Well, throughout the Bay Area today, we're still dealing with warm weather in our inland spots. 80s in the forecast today, but they quickly jump into the 90s. Upper 90s, too, as we head into our Friday forecast. So we're starting off this weekend real warm, but notice that gradual cool down day by day. We're getting back into the upper 80s as early as Monday, just in time for back to school for many kids in our inland spots. And then we're back into the low 70s for our friends along the bay. It's going to be a warm weekend for us, though, so soak it in while we have it. It's looking a lot cooler by mid next week.
Leaders in San Francisco say addressing homelessness has been a top priority. And we've certainly seen the city focus on clearing encampments and even enact policies like a citywide RV parking ban. But some people in the Hayes Valley neighborhood near City Hall say homeless people have now moved to their neighborhood. Amanda Harry spoke with people who live there and local business owners, putting pressure on the city to take action.
Residents and business owners in Hayes Valley say what used to be clean and friendly streets are now littered with people making them their home.
Primarily, lying on the sidewalk or in a doorway or in bushes. And most are, from what I can kind of ascertain, are suffering from mental illness and or drug addiction.
David Robinson has lived in the Hayes Valley neighborhood for 12 years. He's also president of the neighborhood association. He's seen conditions deteriorate in the last few months as Mayor Daniel Lurie has worked to reduce disorder in the South Market and Mission districts. Robinson believes unhoused people have migrated to other neighborhoods, including Hayes Valley.
It's been pretty evident since the tent encampments have been dispersed.
And Mayor Lurie has acknowledged the issue, posting on Instagram Tuesday that he went by to see it himself.
I am here in Hayes Valley. We've been getting a lot of reports from some of our small business owners struggling with those that are not well, whether they're using or mentally ill. We got still far too many people on our streets overnight, leaving debris and making too many families feel like they don't have safe and clean streets.
Robinson says it breaks his heart to see people in this state, and the streets of the neighborhood he loves fall into disarray.
The mess that is made, sanitary messes, obviously, that come from these folks that we're constantly having to report and having to clean up. I personally clean the streets.
He's concerned it's going to keep visitors and potential future residents away from the neighborhood. But business owner Lloyd Silverstein says this is a citywide problem, not a Hayes Valley one.
I don't see it as any different than any other neighborhood.
What he believes is different is the way people of Hayes Valley have tried to advocate for themselves. Silverstein's family has owned Optical Underground since 1911. It used to be in Union Square. 8 years ago, he moved his business to Hayes Valley. In that time, he says the police captain for the neighborhood has changed about a half dozen times.
We have to stay on them all the time to keep our foot patrols here, to keep our police ambassadors here, to keep the neighborhood ambassadors here. The minute we go quiet, they move those resources somewhere else. The city has limited resources. They can't cover every neighborhood. So it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease.
Robinson is hopeful that with the extra attention the community has drawn to the issue and the mayor's help, they can reverse the recent trend.
My hope going forward is having a city where, we can be looked at throughout the country and the world again as the place to visit, and of course, as residents, the place to live.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel plans to take control of the entire Gaza Strip. That is according to the Wall Street Journal. This announcement coming ahead of a security cabinet meeting this week. It's been nearly 2 years since the October 7th Hamas attack, which sparked the ongoing war in Gaza. Over the past 21 months, the Hamas-run health ministry says that more than 60,000 Palestinians have been killed. Another 146,000 people have been injured. According to the United Nations, people in Gaza are experiencing acute malnutrition as a result of a severe lack of food. Multiple media outlets in the Middle East say almost 200 people have died of starvation and thousands of children have been hospitalized for malnutrition over the past few months. 3 injured children from Gaza are here in the Bay Area now to receive medical treatment for injuries they suffered in the war in Gaza. They landed at SFO along with their families yesterday. Our Katie Nielsen was at the airport as they received a warm welcome.
It was an emotional and exciting welcome for the children and their families, greeted by volunteers and also the doctors who helped coordinate their treatment, like Dr. Mohammed Soubey.
Our goal really is to provide them with the best care we can to give them, the best opportunity at healing.
He's an emergency room doctor in the South Bay and went to Gaza twice in the past few years as a healthcare volunteer. That's where he met 6-year-old Hazal, 8-year-old Enes, and 14-year-old Leanne.
I haven't seen them for almost a year. And so this is a big reunion for me personally as, not as their doctor, but as just like, as a good, very close friend.
All 3 children were injured in separate bombings in Gaza, with Hazal and Enes both suffering traumatic leg injuries, and Leanne dealing with severe burns and shrapnel embedded in her foot and leg.
Some of them have orthopedic injuries that really require multiple complex surgeries, rehabilitation, and as you can imagine, with the annihilation of the healthcare infrastructure in Gaza, this is not possible. We cannot do this on the ground in Gaza.
The number of children in Gaza that currently need significant medical care is in the tens of thousands. So it is absolutely not something that the healthcare system there can accommodate.
The group Heal Palestine helps children and their immediate family members come to the U.S. on medical visas. They find private donors to pay all their medical bills, plus host families who can offer places to stay close to the hospitals. The first issue that will be addressed for all of the kids is malnutrition.
We have nutritionists and various other specialists on board to see how we can really give them the best chance at maximizing this treatment.
In addition, the children will receive dental care and mental health services, plus will also have some much-needed downtime just to enjoy being kids.
All of them and all of their family members have never seen the world outside of Gaza, which is 2/3 the size of the city of San Jose.
The 3 children who arrived here today will all be treated at different hospitals: El Camino, Santa Clara Valley Med Center, and Kaiser Oakland. Once their medical treatments are complete here in the U.S., Heal Palestine will get them to Egypt, where they'll help them with housing and also education.
Meanwhile, Hamas is believed to still be holding as many as 50 hostages, though officials believe at least 28 of those hostages have died. Last week, the U.S. envoy to the Middle East visited with the families of the Israeli hostages in Tel Aviv, met with President Trump on Monday to discuss plans on how to get humanitarian aid to Gaza. Still ahead here on CBS News Bay Area, it has been 80 years since the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. How a haunting relic here in the Bay Area serves as a reminder of the dark past.
It's a very normal summer-like day for us here in the Bay Area, especially in San Francisco too. And as we head into the afternoon hours today, we can see gusts anywhere up to around 20-25 miles per hour in places like San Francisco, Half Moon Bay, Bodega Bay, and all the way over into Stinson Beach too. A little bit lighter along the southern coastline, and then you make your way off into our inland spots along the Delta, up to around a 20-mile-per-hour wind gust there. But temperatures are expected to be above normal throughout the next 6 to 10 days. And here's what it's looking like already. We're dealing with some low pressure, like I mentioned, just kind of dipping its way down, bringing us some cloudier conditions for our coastal areas. Tomorrow, we start to see high pressure build in. That brings in 90s widespread throughout our inland areas before a nice cool down into next week, which lines up perfectly for back to school, too, for many kiddos. As for the Bay, we're just seeing 70s each day until midweek next week. We'll have more on that coming up in a bit.
Well, today, we are looking back on a dark time in history. This week marks 80 years since the United States dropped the world's first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. The day was August 6th, 1945 at 4:15 p.m. Pacific time. The bomb destroyed the city, instantly killing 70,000 people. 3 days later, on August 9th, a second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki, killing another 40,000 people. The attacks forced Japan to surrender on August 15th, finally marking the end of World War II. Back here in the Bay Area, a commemoration for victims of the Hiroshima atomic bomb was held in San Francisco's Japantown yesterday at 4:15, the exact time the bomb was dropped by the crew of the Enola Gay B-29 bomber. The Japanese American Religious Federation, along with community members, took part in this ceremony. And now a new documentary is shedding more light on the devastation of a nuclear fallout through the eyes of American medics and the experiences of atomic bomb survivors. As Ryan Yamamoto shows us, one museum in Japantown is amplifying their story through a single relic that serves as a haunting reminder.
Inside a tiny museum in San Francisco's Japantown, Rosalind Tanai is the keeper of a dark reminder of what happened 80 years ago in Japan.
Quite haunting.
A doll that was pulled from the rubble of the second of two atomic blasts that killed 110,000 people instantly and at least another 100,000 people from radiation exposure.
American Family brought it in and let us know that they had kept it all these years. It was given to them by a family that survived the atomic bomb blast.
And it's those survivor stories that Tonai wants people to experience and understand, including San Francisco's Jack Dariki, a Japanese-American visiting family in Hiroshima who became stuck in Japan because of the war. He was working at a factory on the outskirts of the city when the first bomb dropped. KPIX5 interviewed him 10 years ago.
We saw 3 aircraft coming above us. I said, "What is this?" And then at that time the bomb exploded. All the factory window went out. It flew over my head. I was weighed 100 pounds then. I was floating in the air.
And now a new documentary, Atomic Echoes, wants to shed more light on the devastation.
The bombs we have now are so much stronger than...
I had a chance to talk to the filmmakers Victoria Kelly and Karen Tanabe.
Very few Americans understand what happened under the mushroom cloud, right? We all see the exact same image, which really covers up the atrocities. And then we stop there in the history books.
Tanabe's great-great-uncle was part of the rebuilding effort in Hiroshima, and Kelly's grandfather was an American medic in Nagasaki who witnessed the effects of peak radiation sickness. He suffered from PTSD and died at the age of 42. The film interviews other American medics who talked about what they saw.
And they were really torn, like they were really proud of their service. And at the same time, all of them said, we were there and we can't ever have these bombs happen again because they were the worst thing we've ever seen.
For Tanai, it is a topic still relevant today.
We're on the cusp of a nuclear buildup. This is really a call for world peace, so we really need to take a pause and take a look at the human costs and the consequences of a possible nuclear fallout.
Her hope, history that happened even 8 decades ago, will never repeat itself.
So that doll from the Nagasaki bombing was tested for radiation. It did contain trace amounts, but is safe. As for Jack, he is still alive and lives here in San Francisco. The Atomic Echoes documentary is currently airing on PBS. According to the Federation of American Scientists, 9 countries right now have around 12,000 nuclear weapons combined. The nonprofit says Russia and the U.S. possess about 87% of the world's total nuclear weapons. That is followed by China. The Federation says its numbers are just estimates, since some countries do not disclose the exact amount. In June, the U.S. bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran to prevent the country from developing nuclear weapons. At the time, President Trump said that the attack obliterated the facilities, but an assessment did reveal that those strikes may have only set Iran's nuclear program back by a few months. Coming up in the next half hour here on CBS News Bay Area. A year after a school in the East Bay was shut down because of dangerous conditions, the walls are coming down to prepare for a complete rebuild. We're going to hear from parents who pressured the district to make it happen.
There's still, a lot of heaviness to this win. We shouldn't have to have gone through all this to get this done.
And a mystery has appeared at the home of the Valkyries. What is up with this giant egg outside Chase Center?
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Thanks for staying with us this Thursday. I'm Ann Makovic. Here is another look at some of our news headlines. The ripple effects from that United Airlines ground stop still impacting some passengers today. This is a look early this morning, pretty quiet at SFO because some flights are canceled, many behind schedule this morning. Last night's ground stop lasted for hours at airports across the country. The airline blames a technology glitch. Company says it is covering meals and hotels for travelers affected. In the North Bay, day 3 of the city workers' strike in Nevada. This is video from Monday when building inspectors, street maintenance workers, and park and rec staff initially hit the picket lines. They are demanding more money and help with staffing shortages. The city says their labor negotiation team has offered raises, but they say the union decided to strike instead of continuing negotiations. The massive wildfire on the Central Coast has now torched through more than 150 square miles. That is about twice the size of the city of Oakland. The Gifford fire broke out Friday in the Los Padres National Forest in Santa Barbara County. Things are going to be even tougher for firefighters as they brace for a heat wave. Let's get another check on our first alert forecast now with meteorologist Jessica Birch.
Well, we're still dealing with warm weather this afternoon in our inland areas. More 90s in places like Antioch, 80s into Concord. We have low 80s in the Santa Clara Valley with 80s all the way up into Santa Rosa. So all of our inland areas are kind of around the same spot when it comes to our daytime highs and relative humidity too. It's still pretty low into the afternoon hours. Now we're back into the upper 60s in San Francisco today. Yesterday we topped off in the 70s, which was warm, but not that average actually around this time of year. Now as we take a look at the next couple days, we're continuing to warm up a little bit more into this weekend. Once this area of low pressure moves away, that actually allows for high pressure to build in, diving into our Friday, Saturday, and Sunday forecast. And that's going to give our temperatures a little bit above average conditions into early next week too. Now, this morning we kicked off with some misty conditions along the coast. We can still see that drizzle linger into the noon hour just along our shoreline, but for the rest of us, it's dry and sunny in our inland spots, cloudy and cool along the peninsula today. And here's what we're gearing up for when it comes to the winds into this afternoon. Starting off nice and light throughout most of the Bay Area, but it does start to kick up, especially in places like San Francisco, all the way up into Fairfield, up to around 20 to 25 mile per hour winds expected into the evening hours tonight. Now, above normal temperatures are expected throughout the next 6 to 10 days. What does that mean for us here locally? Well, we're still going to be dealing with warm weather here in the Bay, but we are going to experience a bit of a cool down into next week. Here's what we're gearing up for. Mid-90s diving into this weekend, at least for Friday and Saturday. It starts to taper off back into the 80s as we head into next week from Monday and Tuesday. It's back to school next week for all those kiddos, and as that's happening, we're going to get a little bit of a midweek cool down. Still sunny skies and low relative humidity mixed with some strong winds at times, so fire weather conditions are possible, and we want to be mindful of that. 70s for our friends along the Bay. We'll keep you updated on that forecast here in the Weather Center.
President Trump's tariffs on dozens of countries are now in effect. Those higher tariffs went into effect at midnight. The White House says goods from more than 60 countries and the European Union face tariff rates ranging from 10 to 50%. India saw its tariffs double after President Trump's executive order, which he signed on Wednesday. That's after the country recently purchased oil from Russia. In a social media post, President Trump touted billions of dollars flowing into the U.S. He also promised more tariffs on the way, threatening a 100% levy on imported semiconductors. Economists say this almost certainly means prices will go up for Americans. The nonpartisan budget lab at Yale calculates it will amount to an 18% increase in prices on average. That is the highest rate since 1934. Stanford University's newspaper is suing the Trump administration, claiming the government is infringing on students' right to free speech. The lawsuit is in response to the Trump administration's decision to use the Immigration and Nationality Act to remove pro-Palestinian activists. The Stanford Daily says its international student writers are now self-censoring and declining assignments related to the war in Gaza. They fear that reporting could lead to deportation or revocation of their visas. In the lawsuit, the newspaper writes Secretary Rubio and the Trump administration's war against non-citizens' freedom of speech is intended to send an unmistakable message. Watch what you say, or you could be next. This goes on to say that the pall of fear is incompatible with American liberty. The Department of Homeland Security responding to the suit in a statement, calling the claims, quote, baseless and laughable. It adds that DHS takes its role in removing threats to the public and our communities seriously. President Trump has received a $100 billion pledge and a golden gift from Apple's CEO Tim Cook. They announced that additional investment on the company's domestic manufacturing yesterday at the White House. That brings Apple's total investment to $600 billion over the next 4 years. Tim Cook says it will help create 20,000 new jobs.
This is a significant step toward the ultimate goal of ensuring that iPhones sold in the United States of America also are made in America.
Tim Cook also gave the president a piece of engraved glass set in a 24-karat gold base. Apple is suing San Francisco's newest movie theater, Apple Cinemas, claiming that the East Coast theater chain is trying to trick ticket buyers into thinking that the two are affiliated. Apple Cinemas just opened up at the former Van Ness movie multiplex last month, plans on opening another theater in Danville. Apple says the movie chain is trying to dilute its brand by opening Bay Area locations near its Cupertino headquarters. Apple is seeking unspecified damages and a court order barring Apple Cinemas from using any confusingly similar trademarks containing the word Apple. The newest version of ChatGPT launched today. It is called GPT-5. This morning, CEO Sam Altman announced the new version improves its ability to write code and create software. He also said the chatbot's answers will be more accurate. The company says nearly 700 million people use ChatGPT every week. While many students are heading back to school this week, one elementary school in the East Bay is not going to have students back in classrooms anytime soon. Stege Elementary in Richmond is going to stay closed for another year as the campus is demolished and rebuilt from scratch. The old school was deemed to be too dangerous, but only after a group of angry parents and advocates pressured the district to make some changes. Our John Ramos spoke to some of them about the lessons learned.
This time next year, there should be a brand new Stege Elementary School on this site. It's something parents and community members fought long and hard for. And while that is good news, the process of getting here hasn't left people with a lot of trust in the district. The demolition of Stege Elementary has already begun, but it won't be an easy process. The old school, built in 1943, is loaded with asbestos and lead paint that will take a lot of time and money to remove safely. But when the new school is built, it will be a dream come true for Lakeisha Mitchell-Keith, who helped spearhead the effort.
And just the idea that they will get, these children will get the resources that they deserve and have deserved for decades. I mean, just that opportunity it fills me with joy.
For decades, Stege fell into disrepair while other schools were prioritized. When it was abruptly shut down last year, most of the windows had been painted shut while the thermostats were set to the mid-80s. Dry rot was found in the walls of 3 classrooms, but repairs were halted when asbestos was found in the window putty. There was no water in the kitchen area, and in some bathrooms, when toilets were flushed, sewage bubbled up from the floor.
I've been aware of it in detail for about 16, 17 years.
Don Gosney is on the Bond Oversight Committee that keeps an eye on how school bond money is spent. He's been disgusted for years over the way Stege was passed over for repairs. And while many angry parents have blamed it on racism, Gosney says a former board president convinced him it was more about politics.
Stege is, 92.9% minority, and they don't count as much as some of the other groups here in West Contra Costa County.
Do people really say that in meetings when they're making decisions?
Not when they're making decisions, but in the background, yes, they did. That same guy, frankly, he said, F Stege, they can't vote for me.
The district now plans a full rebuild of Stege after it says it found an additional $18 million in its budget. The total cost will be $61 million to construct an entirely new school. In the meantime, the kids will continue to commute about a mile away to Dijon Middle School for classes. Overall, what did you learn from this experience?
That our elected officials aren't nearly as smart as we would hope they would be. They're not as honest as we would hope they would be. That there's not as much transparency in the process as the public demands.
Guadalupe Añana got so involved in the fight as a parent that she eventually ran and won a seat on the school board.
Even though this is a win, there's still, a lot of heaviness to this win on the parents' perspective, right? Like, we shouldn't have to have gone through all this to get this done.
Do you think the district itself has learned something from this?
I hope so. I hope so. And I am there to ensure that, at least with my time, that we are holding people accountable so that we can ensure that this does not happen again.
But Lakeisha has decided to take the path of diplomacy. She's staying positive and doesn't think it's productive to dwell on the anger of the past.
I believe that they've seen that there were mistakes made, that there were things that should have been done. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as they're moving forward to getting it done, that's the key. But let me be very clear. We will not rest until we see trucks come in and start demolishing the building and the workers come in.
It's a time-honored approach in politics when you're dealing with a former adversary. Trust, but verify.
Well, the current timeline shows the new Stage Elementary should be ready by the start of the next school year. In the meantime, students are going to school about a mile away at Dijon Middle School. Coming up next, what could be inside this giant egg? We'll tell you about the mystery violet dome coming up at Thrive City next.
Well, throughout the Bay Area today, we're still dealing with warm weather in our inland spots. 80s in the forecast today, but they quickly jump into the 90s. Upper 90s, too, as we head into our Friday forecast. So we're starting off this weekend real warm, but notice that gradual cool down day by day. We're getting back into the upper 80s as early as Monday, just in time for back to school for many kids in our inland spots. And then we're back into the low 70s for our friends along the bay. It's going to be a warm weekend for us, though, so soak it in while we have it. It's looking a lot cooler by mid next week.
We are just 2 days away from the Niners taking on the Broncos in the first preseason game at Levi Stadium. You can watch it on KPIX and streaming on Paramount+. Kickoff, 5:30 p.m. on Saturday. The 49ers returning to the practice field today, and as Matt Lively shows us, there will be a few familiar faces in Santa Clara.
This is the Audi Red and Gold Report.
The 49ers will play their preseason opener Saturday night against the Denver Broncos. But before we talk about the game, the two teams have something else on the schedule.
We're talking about practice. Not a game. We're talking about practice.
The 49ers and Broncos will hold a joint practice Thursday in Santa Clara, a chance to compete against another team and also see a few familiar faces. Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga both signed with Denver in the offseason.
Love everything about joint practices, being able to compete against another team finally. You beat up on your own guys all the time. Getting some fresh faces here will be exciting, of course. Seeing Huff and Dre, you even see Mike McGlinchey over there, DJ Jones. Right. There's a lot of 49ers over there in Denver.
I'm Matt Lively with the Red and Gold Report.
And again, CBS News Bay Area is your home for Niners preseason football. You can watch the Niners taking on the Broncos Saturday, live on KPIX, streaming on Paramount+. Kickoff is at 5:30, and our pregame coverage begins at 5. The Golden State Valkyries are hoping for some redemption this weekend after a tough loss last night against the Las Vegas Aces. The Valkyries lost 78-72 at Chase Center. That is back-to-back wins for Vegas over Golden State. The Aces handed the home team one of their worst losses of the year on Sunday. The Valkyries now have a 14-15 record, putting them in 8th place. In 9th place, right behind them, the LA Spars, who they host on Saturday. There is a mystery, meantime, at Chase Center. A giant violet egg has appeared at Thrive City. Take a look, you can see that is sitting on a small nest of feathers. Kelsey Thorett is trying to crack the case.
Well, we are here at Chase Center in Thrive City because a mystery is bubbling. This violet egg with some gold speckles showed up at Thrive City this morning, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what it is. You can see it's this beautiful violet color that we've been told may or may not be a coincidence as the same color as the Golden State Valkyries, but it's still very unclear what it is. So we brought in the Valkyries' own wildlife expert, Kenny, to come tell us what you think this is. Now, Kenny, I see you are dressed for the part as the wildlife expert, so you clearly know what you're talking about. What do you think this is?
It's obviously an egg. The shape
pretty sure it's a bird egg, which is really exciting for bird lovers like myself.
Okay, yeah, and I see there's some feathers down here on the bottom, so I think you may be right when it comes to the bird theme.
A little bit of nesting, yeah.
Okay,
it's good.
Have you ever seen an egg this big before?
I have not seen an egg this large before. This is amazing.
What do you think that may mean?
It's an extraordinary situation, of course.
So when we look at an egg, I know, it takes a bit to hatch. What could we expect maybe, over the next few days or anything when it comes to this egg? And I know you also have to kind of keep it safe because they are fragile.
Yes, and we don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. It's extraordinary, for sure.
It does seem to be a big egg mystery here at Chase. So we're going to wait. Hopefully Kenny gets more information. He can examine the egg and we'll hopefully learn more soon. But for now, back to you guys.
Well, you can make it a basketball day this Saturday. Pix Plus 44, Cable 12. We're going to have that Valkyries game as they take on the LA Sparks. And then you can watch Caitlin Clark and the Fever take on the Chicago Sky. Coverage starts at 5 p.m. Coming up, Sharon Chin introduces us to this week's CBS News Bay Area Icon Award winner. And one of San Francisco's iconic painted ladies is opening her doors as an art museum. How it hopes to spread joy with another more controversial symbol of the city. Well, if you have spent any time walking around San Francisco, then you have probably seen these honey bear decals in windows. Now you can learn about their history and the man behind them. He's been a bit of a mystery. The lessons are taking place at one of San Francisco's most recognizable symbols, the Painted Ladies at Alamo Square. Lorene Ayub gives us an inside look.
Art lovers and San Francisco history buffs are getting a unique opportunity to see inside one of the iconic Painted Ladies that sit across from Alamo Square. The inside of the Pink Lady has been converted into a temporary art museum, displaying the art of its owner, San Francisco street artist Finch.
The way we think about it is, we're just inviting you in our house to see an art collection.
The transformation into art gallery is the latest in a winding road for the artist and the historic landmark.
My wife and I attempted to remodel that house for our family, and we spent 2 years trying to get permits, and were unable to. And put the house on the market, but it was a bad time in 2022, so took it off the market, and it's sat empty ever since.
But empty no more. The exhibit features all 116 honey bear paintings from across Finch's career, and a chance for attendees to get a rare look inside a painted lady. During a visit with the artist at his San Francisco studio, he spoke about the origin of the now infamous bear.
To me, the honey bear is positive, nostalgic, and inclusive. So it's something positive people to enjoy. It harkens back to a childhood where you want sugar, frankly, but it's got like positive vibes. And it's inclusive because doesn't require a lot of cultural knowledge. You see it, you can understand it right away. You don't have to have, studied art history to get what it means and to enjoy it.
The free experience is welcoming locals and tourists alike. That includes visitor Luciana Hernandez from Mexico, who says she's a fan of both Finch's art and the hit show, Full House.
Well, it's amazing. As a tourist, it's fun to come here. Now they open it up for a museum, so it's amazing just to come here, get inside, and now, seeing all these little bears we have here that became so famous, it's amazing.
And while the bears may look sweet, they take painstaking, handcrafted work to create. Beyond his collectible pieces, Finch's murals, many commissioned across the city, have become a recognizable stamp on San Francisco. The art, though prominent, has caused backlash within the San Francisco art scene, with critics saying the bear has become commercial and represents gentrification. Still, that has not deterred Finch from his craft or the city that he loves.
I still think San Francisco is the best city in the world to live in. To me, it's really a culture of makers. You're not judged here by what shoes you're wearing or what handbag you're holding, but kind of like what you're doing with your time.
With each honey bear reflecting a different community or theme, Finch says his mission is simple: to spark joy through art.
To me, if you're having a bad day and you see a happy painting, maybe your day gets a little better, right? So I say that life is hard enough without sad art. So I'm just trying to bring some positivity, and I like seeing that myself, and I hope to do that with my own art for other people.
Bringing positivity and a unique experience in an iconic location.
So the museum is open Wednesday through Sunday from noon to 8 p.m. through October. Thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ann Makovic. We're going to be right back with your First Alert forecast and another look at your top stories.